Hey, really quick, our sponsor Babbel is giving you 25% off when you use the link under this video. I recently went to Italy. I knew very little Italian a month ago, but after spending just a few weeks using the Babbel language learning app before the trip, I was able to confidently have conversations in Italian while I was over there. The lessons were quick and easy. I did it all on my phone. You don't waste time learning things that aren't relevant, and you actually remember what you learn. I'm going to stick with it. You should check it out too, and you'll get 25% off when you use the link underneath this video. Yesterday, I reported to you that the Donald Trump campaign did some internal polling in a number of key battleground states, and that Donald Trump currently, according to his own campaign's internal polls, is losing some major important 2016 battleground states to most, if not all, likely Democratic challengers in hypothetical one-on-one matchups. Trump's reaction, as I told you yesterday, was bury the polls, say we're doing great, period. Now, unfortunately, at the same time that Donald Trump's campaign was doing internal polling in a lot of these battleground states, other regular pollsters were also doing polls in those battleground states, and the public polls say the exact same thing. Donald Trump is not doing particularly well right now in one-on-one matchups in a number of key states, including Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania and others. Now, Donald Trump has been presented with the public polls showing that he's currently losing to every major 2020 Democratic candidate in these hypothetical 2020 matchups, and Trump has absolutely lost it and is now claiming that the polls are totally fake. Donald Trump tweeting in a tweet storm, quote, "The fake news has never been more dishonest than it is today. Thank goodness we can fight back on social media. Their new weapon of choice is fake polling, capital F in fake, capital P in polling, sometimes referred to as suppression polls. They suppress the numbers, had it in 2016, but this is worse. The fake, corrupt news media said they had a leak into polling done by my campaign, which, by the way, and despite the phony and never-ending witch hunt, are the best numbers we have ever had. Lie, lie, lie. I mean, this is all lies. They reported capital F fake numbers and then that they made up and don't even exist. All caps, we will win again." Now, there are people on the left who actually agree with Trump that the polls are totally fake, and they email me daily and they tell me Joe Biden's not really winning the Democratic primary. Bernie is actually ahead of Biden, or Tulsi is actually polling 10%, not 1%. You can't believe anything that's there. Now, I've already talked about what is and isn't accurate about polling, but the polls are not fake, okay? If your evidence is we know 2020 polls are fake because 2018 polls were totally wrong and fake, and 2016 polls were totally wrong and fake. Well, the 2016 national polls were correct. They had Hillary winning by 2 or 3 points nationally, and she did. Of course, she lost the Electoral College ultimately because of these 77,000 votes in 3 states that were within the margin of error. But the national polls were right in 2016. The national polls were basically right in 2018 as well in terms of what would happen in the Senate with Democrats and Republicans and what would happen in the House with Democrats and Republicans. So I don't know what that contingent of the left is referring to. I don't know what Trump is referring to, because what is now publicly being said in these polls is the exact same thing that Donald Trump's own internal polls of these battleground states are saying. And specifically, Donald Trump, I'm guessing, is referring to a new Quinnipiac poll from this week where Donald Trump is losing to every leading 2020 Democrat. Let's put the results up on the screen. Trump versus Biden, Biden 53, Trump 40. Sanders 51, Trump 42. That's +9 for Bernie. Kamala Harris 49, Trump 41. That's +8 for Kamala. Warren 49-42 over Trump. That's +7. Buttigieg and Cory Booker both 47-42, +5 over Donald Trump. So normal caveats here. Number one, is it likely that Donald Trump will end up with only 40 or 41% of the vote in the 2020 election? No, Donald Trump is going to get more unless there's a serious third-party challenger. Trump's going to get more than 40 or 41%. There are some undecideds in those numbers that are ultimately going to vote most likely for either Trump or the Democratic challenger. There hasn't been, is it likely Trump will lose the popular vote by 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 even, as is being shown in the Quinnipiac poll? Absolutely not. There has not been a popular vote margin of 10 or greater in a presidential election since Ronald Reagan 35 years ago, and it would be very unlikely to happen in 2020. But the main takeaway here, the point is Trump's not doing well right now, 17 months from the election, in a number of battleground states and nationally against hypothetical Democratic presidential nominees who we don't even actually know who is going to be the nominee yet. There's even a poll. This is amazing. There's a poll showing Trump down to Joe Biden in Texas by 4 points, which is very close to Trump's net favorability in Texas, which is -3, meaning 3 percentage points more see Trump unfavorably in Texas than favorably. But I want to, every time we do polling stuff, I'm going to go back to this because it's so important. And I apologize to people who say I've said this enough. I can't possibly say it enough. I want to caution everyone to be very careful here. We actually want Trump to think that he's winning, because if Donald Trump really thinks the polls are fake, maybe he really does believe that he's currently winning in these head-to-head matchups. That's what we want, because a Trump who thinks he's winning and that he has it in the bag hopefully won't actually go out and campaign, and he'll hang around the White House and he'll play golf and he'll send weird tweets out. And that will make it more likely that he ultimately will lose in 2020. It's really important to understand that we want to, on the one hand, not take for granted, no matter what the polls say, you as an individual voter should operate under the belief that your vote could swing the election to or away from Trump in your state. Okay. And if you take that approach, what you would do on election day, or as soon as early voting starts in your state, is you would go and you would vote. So no matter what the polls say, operate under the guise that your vote could make the difference. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to what Trump thinks about polls, the better Trump thinks he's doing, the less he's going to campaign, the less seriously he's going to take the possibility that he gets defeated in 2020. And we have to remember, systemically, we are at a disadvantage. Gerrymandering favors Republicans, number one. Number two, the urban-rural divide favors Republicans in conjunction with the Electoral College. Number three, when we consider all of the different possible types of interference that Donald Trump said to George Stephanopoulos yesterday he would welcome in 2020 in terms of opposition research, or oppo research, as Trump calls it, against potential Democratic candidates. There's a whole bunch of stuff systemically stacked against us. The voter suppression tactics that they will continue to employ. So the better Trump thinks he's doing, the less likely it is he will take action that might actually help him in 2020. And that's something we shouldn't forget either. Make sure you're following The David Pakman Show on Instagram at David Pakman Show. Follow me while you're there at david.pakman. Lots of great behind the scenes pictures from my trip to Los Angeles last week and a lot of other great stuff. We will take a quick break and be back right after this.